What's up, Nubians? Welcome to techn00bians, part of the Geekish Network. This is your weekly deep dive into video games steeped in blackness. For those of you who don't know, techn00bians is your live stream and podcast hosted by Black technology professionals, where we discuss the what, when, and how you can get into this world of technology, specifically video games. With me today, I have our man with a million plans, Chuck.
What's up, everyone?
I have our producer, sleuther, and deducer, Shanae.
Hey, folks.
Our marksman engineer, Leon.
What's up, people?
And there's somebody down here at the bottom. Is this Travis? I can't really see the face.
I don't know.
Wake up, Travis.
What's going on? You got preemptive face palms.
You know?
Wait, I haven't even gotten to talk about my Nintendo OLED yet. You can't face palm yet.
I figured this was a Windows
You know what's
update
coming.
face palm. Is am I spoiling stuff? Windows update?
So I am your host, Cherie. We are techn00bians. We're here every week to inspire, sustain, and nurture successful creative technologists in the pursuit of Black excellence and content development. So, all right, y'all, you know how we kick this off? We do the news and then we do a long topic. This week, we are talking about Paint It Black, representation in gaming. We wanted to have a good discussion on this. We wanted to have a good feel-good story for us about seeing a lot more representation here. We had quite a few entries lately. So give us this moment of grace just for us to talk about this this week. But before we get into that, we're going to do our gaming news with our news segment, techn00bians. So let us start this off. I actually have a story to kick us off here. This is about Uber. So Uber is being sued over its facial recognition algorithm. So basically, this is over in the UK. The Independent Workers Union in the UK announced plans this week to sue Uber about their facial recognition algorithm, which they say is discriminatory against people of color. Essentially, there's a tool like Uber has like a real-time ID check tool, and it periodically requires drivers to submit selfies through the app to check the identity. And one of the members of the Independent Workers Union said that he was fired after the system failed to recognize his face twice, and he was also unable to resolve the issue, like even when talking to like a human staff member to prove, yes, this is actually me in the photo. It's like that. So in the complaint, they're alleging Uber's face check ID system relies on Microsoft's facial API recognition tool, and they cite like an MIT study from 2019, which talks about how face APIs are 5 times more likely to make errors when identifying people of darker skin colors than someone with lighter skin colors. So just wanted to kind of bring this up. What do people think about this? I mean, I don't know how many times we have to run into this same issue over and over again.
I mean, I have two thoughts immediately. The first thought is it used to be you couldn't get a cab because you were Black.
Now you can't even drive one.
The cab driver.
Does that mean we've come up in the world? I don't know.
It makes you feel better. You still can't get a cab, and you still can't get an Uber or a Lyft in certain areas.
Yeah.
I just remember when I was denied, to being able to rent an apartment because they pulled my background information and they said that I was a sex offender. And I'm like, what? And so they picked it. So the people in the apartment complex pulled up this photograph of this Black dude who wasn't even me. Okay, that had my same name. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, first of all, I told you guys during this time period, I wasn't even in this state. Now, you see my employment history here, right? Like I'm nowhere near the state that this happened, right? Yeah. And this cat doesn't look anything like me. And when we're offline, I got to show you the picture because not only did this cat not look like me, it looked like this guy was just rolled around in baby powder. I mean, it was ridiculous, right?
Ashy on his shoulders.
He was
ashy shoulders?
like Ashy Larry was practically moisturized compared to this picture. And I swear to you, this is accurate, right? Now, I'm just tired of white people not being able to recognize black people when they see them. And they just code programs that make
that also can't recognize us. Oh my goodness.
But
Well, this is what we talk about all the time, right? We've said this before, like computers will not save us, right? Like
No, they will not.
there's this incorrect
because humans program them.
Yeah, exactly. There's an incorrect belief that if we can just get algorithms to decide things for humans, it'll take the bias out of it. Misunderstanding the fact that the algorithms are created by humans, and oftentimes all you do is program that bias into it. We've seen this happen all the time. I just all I can do is it's not a face palm, it's like a cheek palm or something going on. We're just hearing another story about another facial recognition program that can't recognize anything darker than a brown paper bag. And it's like, cool, now we're losing our jobs through algorithms. Police want to use them to arrest people via algorithms. I'm like, all you're doing is just push it. You're automating racism. Good work.
Yeah.
So I have a humorous take on this, and then actually a little more to say. The humorous take is when I was at Microsoft and we were shipping the Kinect sensor, they let us take the Kinect sensors home. But we had to install a special version of the OS on our Xbox, of which every time we powered on Xbox, we got a message saying we would be fired if someone who did not live in our house saw or interacted with the Kinect in any way. Every time I just want to go play some Ninja Gaiden, you will be fired, fool. Right. So we get to, so that's there. And then somebody figures out that the RGB sensor on the Kinect is terrible at recognizing brown people. Then we get an email saying, hey, if you are Black or brown or have friends that are Black or brown, ignore everything that says, get them in front of that Kinect sensor as quickly as possible. We need data. And that's actually what it boils down to. It's not that machine learning algorithms are racist. It's just that if you give it training data of 1 million white people and 300 Black people, and those 300 Black people happen to be from the felon database, it's going to think every Black person is a felon, right?
Diversify your data sets. Oh my God.
Right. So I think what we're going to start to see, and this goes across machine learning, across healthcare. You see what's happening with Black women in healthcare and algorithms kind of misdiagnosing them. It's the same thing, is that we have to have ethics in verifying machine learning data sets. And I think that this is a position that we're going to start to see emerge in the coming years across all groups, where it's just like, hey, I got this visual thing. I had 3 Black people in a study. No, we don't certify that model. It's not good enough, right? So I think that's a spin on tech that we're going to see.
Yeah. And Travis just sitting over that picture. And I'm just dying right now.
Y'all can't see it, but what we will say is that I have never seen a dustier human being in my entire life.
Travis, I want to see
everywhere.
Post it to the chat. Post it to the chat so people can take a look and go, even if you cover me with that much baby powder, I still wouldn't look like that.
Actually, I've long had that photo on my phone every time Travis calls. But
Travis's twin.
This happened. This happened a week before I met Leon.
I was going to say that actually is Travis. He does a much better facial skin.
An incident happened.
I love how they couldn't even be bothered to consider that. I mean, and no offense, Travis, but Travis Williams, it can be a common name.
It can be a common name.
Like there can't be more than one. We have more than one Travis Williams in some of our Facebook groups.
I ended up going. I don't want to live in a community that's actually run by idiots. So thank you for letting me know. Right up front.
Thank you for letting me off.
Dodge bullet.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next story. Leon, you got something for us?
Yeah. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So Microsoft recently announced that it was going to loosen up on the notion of the right to repair and start actually releasing schematics and data and being less hostile to people trying to repair things. And this is huge, right? Like there have been a number of news stories. There's a famous guy in New York, there's CBC stories where Apple said it'll take $1,000 to fix that MacBook. And he's like, I'll do it for 35 cents. So we've seen a lot of that. So seeing Apple turn around to that is great. Is great for the consumer and prices. Microsoft rather. Thank you. It's great for consumers. It's great for the environment, because the last thing we need is just throwing away computers, full of all kinds of harsh metals. So we can make these devices actually last longer. So this is a really good thing. And living in a place, living in Detroit, where people don't have the disposable income to buy a new computer every 5 minutes, that computer in their house may need to live a long time. So, that Surface notebook that can now have its battery pulled out by Tyrone down the street versus having to sending it in could make a big difference.
Yeah.
I think Leon said it all. I mean, it's awesome that they're moving in that direction. And conversely, I think we saw some stories about leaks around like Apple moving, like definitively not moving in that direction. So, I mean, I'm in favor of just about anything that democratizes technology so that people can get more access and get more use to the technology that they purchase. They can learn more about it. They can be able to come their own IT. And also, let's not like price gouge people on things that are like really easy fixes for stuff. And we know that's I'm very much in the Apple ecosystem for stuff. And I literally have, I think, 5 iPhones in this house at some point. Like 4 of them are like old models and stuff, right? Because what do you do with it? Like, there's nothing you can't recycle it, or you can recycle it. Just basically recycling it goes into a landfill somewhere, right? So it's just, anything that allows us to be able to increase the long-term usage of these devices that are actually very, very expensive and very durable is a win.
So one point there, though, that I'd like to make just in answer to that, and anyone watching, if you have an old phone and you don't know what to do with it, wipe it and donate it to a women's shelter. A lot of times when women have to run and flee the house, they don't have control over the cell phone. The husband does. He cuts them off, so they can always put them to good work. So I tend to just find a local women's shelter, and that's what I donate my old phones to.
Good call.
That's smart.
Yeah. And I'll admit, like, some of the times, when I want to, upgrade technology and stuff like that, but like, I don't want to have to go through the hassle of trying to figure out what to do with my old devices. So I don't want to throw them away. I do kind of, delay on updating.
Yeah.
So, I've still got my iPhone 8.
Travis is starting Twitch. Look at him.
Wait, I want to make Travis really twitch here. Travis, that's the reason why I got my Nintendo Switch.
Double Twitch.
Hey, do I get a seizure out of that one?
I know. I'm donating my old one to my dad, actually.
Hey, that's a secret. Don't tell. Don't.
Yeah, well, if he watches our show, he'll see it.
Will you be playing Nintendo games on that new Switch?
I will. I'll be playing nothing but Nintendo games.
Nothing but
Bluetooth headphones.
There you go.
Because that's the only thing worth playing on Nintendo platforms.
I mean, yes, but also no shame here. Yes. That's good.
Yes.
Also, just bolstering her point, the laptop I'm talking to you folks on right now, I've had since 2015. I really would like to get a new one, but I know it's going to be a huge hassle to move stuff over from my one device to a new device, and then I have two bricks. I have a brick in my house that'll be like, what do I do with it? So. Like I said, I love the idea that we have big companies that are starting to move that direction. A big company that's starting to move that direction.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that will help motivate others to likewise take that under consideration.
Totally agree. And speaking of Microsoft, Travis, there was some Microsoft news recently.
You
want to tell us?
This is the reason for the facepalm at the top of the show, right?
Okay, look. I get mad when people have iPhone 8 in 2021 because what are you doing with your life? Right?
He's just using it for texting.
What's the idea with my life?
I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everything you're doing just slightly slower.
Yeah. So I upgraded to Windows 11.
Mm-hmm.
It came out on the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And my video conferencing has been paying the price. People are moving, at least 5 frames a second slower than they have been before. Why do I do it? I don't know. I really don't.
Foolish, totally foolish.
It's like it's a new thing, right? And it's a new shiny object. Maybe I'm a magpie and I like shiny objects, and I just say, hey, look, shiny tech object. Let's check it out. Because I'm thinking to myself, it's Windows. Eventually, you're going to get there anyway, right? And I do this to myself every single time, right? Like new Mac OS comes out, I get it. New iPhone iOS comes out, I do it every time. I think I deserve this.
You do deserve it. I mean, you're the only person that doesn't read the 10 reviews saying it's going to slow down everything.
I used to do that. I think I had one too many instance of updating to the, and this was like probably 10 years ago, updating to the hottest new iOS, and then spending hours trying to unbrick my phone, trying to find my contacts again, trying to get my save data back for my games. And I said, you know what? I think I can wait now. And now I wait a really long time though. But I learned a hard lesson. Early adoption.
Yeah,
it was really painful. Also, by the way, I like the name Travis the Magpie Williams. I feel like I feel like you should get that on a shirt.
I think of him more as the treasure golem from Diablo, that thing that just runs around. Like that's what's in my mind. I guess I just have 3 words for this: Service Pack 1. Wait.
You know it's coming.
It'll get there. And it'll be fantastic when it does. I mean, we were at an online forum, actually on Travis's online forum, and my friend said, I'm waiting until Leon upgrades. And then my senior Microsoft employee friend said, me too. Right? So,
all I can say is, like, I'm sure that we're glad there's early adopters out there, Travis, because that's
Yeah, I want to do it all the time, Travis. I said, let me go read the 5 reviews of people that do this for a living. And I'm like, wait, it's going to slow down this, it's going to slow down that.
It's for a living.
I'm good.
People that work at CNET, Polygon, Marquise. There's a bunch of them.
Okay, all right, whatever. My windows are rounded on the corners now. How about that?
That's what he likes. It's pretty. That's what this is about.
Aesthetic.
It's
like, it looks like a Mac.
It's closer to the Mac. That is what this is all about. It has nothing to do with anything else with Travis, right? Like, let's be clear.
I don't appreciate your tone, Mr. Pryor.
Or my correctness.
It looks like a new Mac, but it operates like an old Mac with new software on it.
You know, I will admit, like, sometimes I'm an early adopter, like, with the Nintendo OLED, but that was kind of a known quantity, to be totally honest. And let's also be honest. There's not really that many changes for it.
Really?
But you bought it.
Sure, I did. Like I said, so I bought it because I was telling my sister, I'm like, I don't need to get a PS5 right now because I don't have time to play it. I'm not gonna have time to take advantage of the Xbox Series X, like the whole Game Pass.
I have those.
I do play games on the Switch whenever I have time. So I'm like, let me just upgrade my Switch. Let me send my dad my dad's got a Switch Lite, so I'm like, this will be an upgrade for him when he gets this with the little broken this thing.
That's an upgrade.
It's still gonna be an upgrade.
So let's be honest. You're not an early adopter. You got the system we all should have waited for. We all should have waited for the OLED Switch. Everybody.
But I did buy the Nintendo Switch day one also.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I used to be an early adopter on all the video game hardware and stuff like that too. But I mean, it sort of broke my combo. This generation broke my combo because the PS5 and the Xbox Series X were so freaking hard to get a hold of.
I'd love to be an early adopter. I really would.
Yeah. I mean, not only because I just love playing games and seeing the new hardware that's out there and the new technologies and innovations and what sort of differences, what sort of game experiences, how they differentiate across platforms, but also because it's my job too. So it's always helpful to have that broad access to them.
So what I'm hearing is that you need me on that wall. That's where you need me. You need me on that wall, because I provide comfort and safety.
I actually said that
for
already,
the rest
Travis.
Of you. Is that what you're saying?
I already said that. I
you
said
need me on the wall.
Yes, we
taking a hit for all of you.
Did it take 5 minutes?
You know what? I would say
that 5 minutes ago.
I would prefer that you just say thank you and go about your tech business.
Travis.
I literally said that 5 minutes ago, Travis. I said companies are really happy to have the Travises out there.
I'm talking about y'all personally. I'm not talking about companies. I'm talking about y'all personally.
No, man.
Travis, we can handle
curved windows is your problem.
Thank you for the protection.
Handle the OS.
We can handle the truth, Travis.
Here's what I would,
Travis.
Here's what I would say, though, in all seriousness, if you're thinking about getting Windows 11 and you have a Microsoft device, such as a Surface Book or Surface laptop, you're going to have more testing on that environment than other systems. So you're probably going to be a lot better off than Travis's PC, which was cobbled together by our boy Sheldon with magic and whatever parts he could find. I love Sheldon.
But it was dope.
Sheldon does a great job.
So you had to click that Zoom link.
I have an AMD processor. That's probably a part of it.
Right. You're going to be safer with an Intel processor and Microsoft hardware. That is your safest bet today. It'll get there though.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you have this very specific setup, y'all.
Well, they did announce that there was some kind of problem people were seeing with AMD processors that they intend to address by the end of this month. We shall see, but at least,
Service Pack 1.
Service Pack 1.
SP1, baby.
Okay,
we got one more story. Shanae, you want to take us home?
Oh yes, I get to talk about this story because you guys know that we've talked about stuff like this a few different times on the show related to work-life balance and how do we make sure that we manage overwork and eliminate overwork, stuff like that in the industry. It is a huge problem. We hear stories about this every few months, especially for our favorite games that are coming out. So game developer Eidos Montreal. If you don't know Eidos Montreal, they're the guys, they're in Montreal, and they're also the developers for the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy game. They just announced that they are going to a 4-day work week. This is some European stuff right now. Like, I'm excited about this. There's actually a lot of research around like the idea of a 4-day work week. I've even floated it at companies before and gotten really snide responses and looks and stuff like that as well. But what they said in this is that they're going to a 4-day work week, which means they're going from a 40-hour default work week to a 32-hour default work week. They're not changing people's salaries. They're not changing like their structure and their working conditions. They're just reducing the number of expected hours within the office for folks. Now, game industry does typically go beyond 40 hours anyways, but even still, like this is a huge win, right? We start having teams that are managing to a 32-hour work week as opposed to managing to a 40-hour work week. Your 40-hour work week usually gets blown up to like 50 or 60 hours. 32-hour work week might wind up going to 40 hours or something like that. That's way better than a lot of the Death March crunch sort of stories that we hear keep coming out. So, this is still a brand new thing for them. Like they said, it's an initiative they want to try and help build a healthy, creative, sustainable work environment. I personally talk about sustainable work, sustainable game development a lot. I talked about the Game Devs of Color just like last week. And I think that this is a big step. Like this is huge for a AAA, quad A level studio to make this decision, because the only other people I've ever seen move to a 4-day work week were smaller independent studios, probably like, in less than 100 people. So this is huge. I'm hoping it'll start like an avalanche.
Revolution.
The good type of revolution.
Yeah.
You think they'll be able to test for AMD processors on a 4-day week?
Maybe they'll just cut them.
On that 5th day, they can cool off so that it can still run.
Now it's really interesting actually as a concept, because I assumed when I first saw this story, I assumed they were going from a 5-day 40-hour work week to a 4-day 40-hour work week. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, we're going from 8-hour days to 10-hour days, but they're actually cutting a whole day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're actually cutting it down to 32 hours a week.
It'll never happen over here.
So, I think what's going to happen here. So one thing I do in my day job, one thing we have Thursday afternoons are called no meeting time, right? It's a no man's zone where no one can schedule you for anything. And the idea there is like, go get things done, right? Stop having meetings talking about work and do the work. So I think even for people that don't actually take the 5th day off, they'll be able to use it to just catch up, be productive, be quiet, get things done. Nobody can schedule different things. So that'll work. For those that as Shanae was saying, there's also a whole lot of data that shows that when people are on a 4-day work week, they don't slack off as much. They get their junk done in those 4 days, and they're it. That's done. So I think either is a win, right? Like I can either choose to use that 5th day is my catch-up time, or, I'm just more focused, right? And I think people are going to start having questions just like, can this meeting be an email?
What's also amazing about the 32-hour work week as well is that means that you get one of the days off theoretically is a weekday. We all know like having the weekend off, having Saturday and Sunday being the default weekdays off is great sometimes, but it's also super useful when you can do things on a weekday because there are things that you often need to do in order to keep your life running.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're trying to if you're trying, you either have to do it in the middle of your workday or like rush at the end of your workday, and just having a day off in the middle of just that is a weekday where like government offices are open, where you can run errands, you can go to the bank at a reasonable time. Like those things are great.
You see where you're wrong though here is that if everyone has a 4-day week, we're back to where we started.
Is that your best counter argument, Travis?
Well, I'm saying like if everyone has a 3-day weekend or something of that nature, I mean, we're going to have the same.
I don't think that was the argument.
Travis, you're the villain for The Incredibles. If everyone is super, no one is, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Bank works bank hours. We're not hearing about banks working death march crunch and working like 18-hour days. We're not hearing about people at the eyeglass working 18-hour days. Mm-hmm. But the game industry, like this is a recurrent theme within games. Like I know that even like what was it earlier this year, maybe it was last year, when people were talking about Last of Us 2 being up for Game of the Year, there were a lot of the big press that were coming out and saying, wait a second, we keep saying that we are anti, this whole death march crunch thing, and we know we've heard the stories come out of these big companies, and including Last of Us 2. Are we really living our values to say like, hey, this is Game of the Year, but look at how many people's lives we had to blow up in order to make this Game of the Year?
Right.
So basically, like, I don't think this is going to solve everything or anything like that. In fact, I even have a little skepticism when they said, hey, maybe they said they don't know how they plan this new thing. They said, maybe we'll do shorter meetings. And I'm like, the only thing you have control of is scope.
Right. Because time just got killed.
Yeah, right? You're not going to be like, oh, we need a 1-hour meeting, so we'll just do a half-hour meeting, and that will get us an extra day off. No, that's not going to work. You're just going to have another half-hour meeting later. Like, what you really need to control is your scope. But anyhow,
I find it.
Anyone's taking any kind of like plausible like actions and steps towards trying to make a change, and this is a big one.
I just find it. Strange that the movie industry isn't up in arms the way that tech is up in arms about this, because they work just as hard, if not harder. Yeah. Especially effects. It's a different industry. They work a little differently. Compensation's a little different, but it just doesn't have the same, like people aren't up in arms. I don't know why either. And I've worked in both, and I'm not sure. So it would be interesting to figure out why that's the case.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the IATSE strike that is literally going on right now? Like they are up in arms about it. Like literally, like this is actually a strike that is going on this week. Because they're also like the way that the way that movies and TV have been impacted by the pandemic has significantly impacted the financials for folks who are working in that industry. So also incidentally, like they have unions.
Yes.
That's probably what it is.
But they do have unions too, and that's actually what this is. The union strike right now is going on because the current situation is untenable for folks.
Yeah,
we've just never had a union either.
I'm gonna bring up a job I once had at a streaming service company, and they had no fixed hours. And the organization that I was a part of respected when you took time whenever you needed to take time. Mm-hmm. So you can come in when you want to, not come in, say, hey, I'm going to be offline for these 5 hours today and my 4 hours this time because I had something to do with my child, or I had to get my eyes examined, and I have a list of things. And they didn't care because they were like, it's not the amount of time that we have of yours, it's you getting the work done. And we set everything by goals of tasks you're getting done. And just get them done. We don't care.
What's the name of that company? Just out of curiosity, just for
Netflix.
Just for research. Just for research.
Netflix and Netflix.
That little one.
Yeah. It's a little company called Netflix, and it was their culture memo. And the organization I was a part of was very radical on the culture memo. Freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
Complete open where you actually talk to people. If you had any problems with somebody, you get up and walk over and talk to them. Y'all go into a little booth and talk about it. Hammer it out. Don't come out until you get it done, because we don't need any swirl inside the company. Our organization was she ran it with Regina ran it like there's no swirl inside of our company, not in our org. And so you don't have to attend every meeting. We have like 50 meetings every hour. And they were like, are you going to the meeting? Like, no, I'm going. I'll go for the meeting. Like, cool. Keep the notes. And we all had Google Docs. We all live update Google Docs. I'm not even in the meeting, and I can live update the notes I'm getting on the doc as it's going on. And somebody would ask that question for me.
Huh. Nice.
It was smart. It was really smart.
That is smart. You know, I mean, and hopefully maybe we can start seeing like more companies that will, you know, we'll start trying to like, you know, be a little innovative with this. Because I mean, the comment you made before, Leon, where you mentioned about like, you know, most people can get their work done. The work they do in 5 days, they can get done in 40. I think about every time when I go to schedule a meeting and someone's like, should I schedule this for an hour? And I'm like, no, because if you schedule for an hour, the meeting's going to take an hour. If you schedule it for like 30 minutes or 15 minutes, if you can handle it, then we can get stuff done. We'll get in there and do stuff. So I kind of look at it that way too. All right. I think we are through our news. So let us go on to the long topic for today, where we are talking about Paint It Black, representation in gaming. So, you know, I've been really kind of excited to talk a little bit about this story here, right? Because I mean, we are seeing a lot more, you know, recent examples in the news, right, of games where we have very clear, unapologetic Black representation. You know, I think we talked on the show maybe like, you know, a couple of weeks ago before about like Deathloop, which, you know, just recently released, where you actually have not one, but two Black main characters. One's a man, one's a woman. Crazy.
Unbelievable.
Holy I know. Crazy. And then you have the character Agrabota from God of War, which, you know, I know folks were a little up, some folks were a little up in arms on it, but it's just like, we are seeing more examples and stuff like that of actual, like authentic feeling, I should say, like examples of Black characters and stuff like that. And I guess, you know, I just want to start this conversation off a little bit. Maybe we can kind of just talk about why is this important? You know, like, why are we seeing this now, and why do we feel like it's important? So I'm just going to throw this question out here to everybody. What are folks' thoughts on this?
You're seeing it because gaming has gotten to a point where I feel like, and I think the industry feels that way too, that you've marketed to every single white male that you could possibly market to, right? And that you can't get blood from a stone, right? And you need to widen your audience. Women play video games. As a matter of fact, they make up the majority of gamers on the mobile side. That Black people play video games. I mean, you know, video games have been getting rap shout outs since the 80s. You know, and now we're at the point where we're at the table where, you know, we've got a seat, and you're starting to see these Black creators, you know, Black coders, Black designers, Black artists, and we want to be seen. And I actually remember when I was at Magic Leap, and we were trying to come up with a character, and we got all these drawings back from the art team, and and I looked at all the you know, the main character, and it was all this white woman, and I said, does the industry need another white woman in a game? And they were like,
no.
And we immediately changed her to a brown woman, you know, and I found that to be fascinating, you know, and I don't think anyone would have asked that question were I not in the room.
Yeah. You know, Travis, I'm reminded of a story. You know, a lot of people don't realize that this is the 20th anniversary of the original Xbox. Either coming up or it just occurred. And when Xbox was first revealed at GDC, there was this pre-made video that was based on the rendering powers of Raven and Rex, and it was this Black woman doing kung fu, and she was being shadowed by this 40-foot robot behind her, and everybody thought it was cool, but it was just a demo, and somebody was like, hey, we should make a game. And they're like, yeah. So my studio went off to make a game. They picked the developer, they went off and they did some character context. And when it came back, Raven was Britney Spears, right? Like long stray hair, white as you could be. And the Black employees were like, really? Like this is what you're going with, right? So yeah, I've seen that. I think we've all seen it firsthand. But yeah, Britney Spears.
I think it's also worth noting. I mean, you know, when we talk about we hear companies talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. Most of the time, they talk about it in the scope of recruiting and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
It's actually really important to have Black and brown folks, to have women, to have LGBTQ, have representation behind the scenes, like making the games and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So I think we're starting to see this more. I think we're starting to see representation not only because companies ran out of folks to advertise to and they have no choice, which is true, but also because you see there are folks who are pushing from within. Like, you know, Travis mentioned that he asked that question of like, hey, can we like have a non-white character? Is that okay? Like the same sort of thing, right? Like I can tell you a story of multiple games that I've worked on where, you know, they'll have a Black character, but, you know, first of all, the slider only goes so Black. It goes like
you get too Black.
Like 16 creams kind of thing.
You get too Black of it here.
Like it looks like someone standing in a shadow, right? And you're like, that's the Black. But the hairstyles have no ethnic hairstyles. They have no ethnic feature for any of the characters. So you looks like all the Black characters just look like a white character that was designed, and then somebody just like used a brown crayon and colored them in. And the hair is always like, oh, don't worry, it's a relaxer. They all have relaxers. I'm like, okay, so like what? Like I can never for years I could never represent myself in games. I still usually can't, if I keep my hair this fancy, represent myself in games. And for Black women especially, our hair is part of our identity. Like if y'all have not read there's so many stories that come out every few months where someone somewhere in the world, usually in America, because America, you know, is America, is politicizing Black women's hair. Saying it's not professional, or cutting off some poor little girl's hair, like cutting off her locks at a freaking daycare, or like there's always something like that.
Wrestlers' locks,
cut off wrestlers' locks, you know, like things like that. And this, of course, because everything in America has historical roots in our historical racism. Like you go back and you start to study this, and you start to realize, like, oh, it's not just hair. And so until we can get a point where I can get my hair represented, like, can I look and see a kinky twist option? If I never get a kinky twist option, then we're not reached our mountaintop.
Yeah.
But that's the chicken and the egg here, though, right? Like you've illustrated it very eloquently. No game developer is going to get that right unless they have Black women working there to help them basically say, let's talk about the hair, right? Like you'll never, if you got a bunch of dudes, they are not going to write dialogue for women that passes the Bechdel test because they're dudes, right? So diversity is what empowers that, right? And it also keeps you from making a stupid mistake, right? If you have people who basically say, yeah, no, we're not doing that. So it's really a chicken and the egg. You're not going to get the representation right unless you have that representation is part of your creative team.
That said, I don't think we should let people off the hook with it, right? Because
no, we shouldn't.
Definitely, like there are different ways in order for folks to approach this and stuff too. Like I often say, like, hey, if you don't have Black folks working at your company, first of all, you should get some Black folks working at your company. What's going on? It's 2021. But also, like, there are ways to, like, you don't have to be from a group in order to represent something, but in order to get that authenticity, you do need that voice in the room. There are plenty of people you can pay. They don't have to be on the permanent payroll. There's lots of consultants out there. There's sensitivity readers. There's folks who can make sure that you don't walk out there and stub your toe and look ridiculous and have your characters only speaking in like what 1970s jive. What you think Black folks sound like?
Yeah.
Introducing Techn00bians Consulting.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny because I remember, early in the 90s when Daikatana came out, and they had a character.
Wow.
And his name was Superfly Johnson. Now, first of all, you knew that without looking at the character, you knew he was Black.
Yeah.
Okay. And without looking at the dev team, I knew nobody Black was there. Because nobody Black would say, that's a great name. Because that's essentially a name for a spectacular penis. And I don't understand why that would be allowed in your game. Now, as the polar opposite, when I look at Deathloop, right? And I saw that it was a Black main, two Black main characters. And I remember when I saw that, it reminded me of Under the Cherry Moon movie by with Prince and Jerome. And when Jerome said he hates stupid people, and if you follow a stupid person home, knock on the door and watch somebody stupid answer the door, right?
Yeah.
And so when I saw two main Black characters in Deathloop, I knocked on the door, and guess what I found? A Black creative lead.
That part. Yeah. No, it was really interesting. I remember watching the trailer for that. I'm like, oh, it's a Black guy. It's like, the lead character. And then like when they did the reveal of his, chief antagonist, a Black woman, I was like, double take. I'm like, whoa, wait.
You can't have
the same game?
I know, right?
Yeah,
Is that allowed?
That's crazy.
I'm like, have I slipped into another universe? Am I in Miles Morales' universe now? Is everything Black?
We talk about having Black creatives in being in the studios. We also need white people to stop blocking Black creatives when they have them in the studio. There's a lot of blocks that go up.
Yeah.
They'll have a lead gameplay designer, but we can't actually influence character design. But this level designer has been there for 2 months, and I've been there for 13 years, can say, I don't like his hair, we should change his hair. They're like, yeah, we should change his hair. And I come in, it's like, I'm here for 13 years, can we make him Black? They're like, oh,
that's a step too far.
We're not ready.
Can I comment too, by the way, if for anyone who has played or has not played Deathloop, I put a couple hours into it. It's a fantastic game, by the way. It's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, really fun, really, really tight, and really, really, really dialed in for like all the gameplay techniques and the gunplay. But the thing that I got a code for it. I'm like downloading. I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this game, but I give it a shot. And let me tell you, within the first 5 minutes, with the VO.
Yes.
Writing it and whoever was voicing it and just the chemistry between the two between Colt and Julian, I was like, I am sold. Like, I love this because he wakes up on a beach and he's just like, shit. It's like he's doing those intonations, that like we all know and we recognize, and we're like, it's not just like someone saying, oh yeah, this really sucks, I'm on the beach. He's like, oh, I'm on the beach. And you're like, man, that sounds like someone in my family.
I think.
Can I ask a question here real quick to folks? Because, I mean, we're talking about like creating this authentic experience, right? And Deathloop, we've talked about as an example, is like, we're all feeling like this is like really feels like an authentic experience. And it's got a glut of representation, even unexpected.
Feels like a glut.
It feels like a glut. Yeah, it's not really a glut. But but question, like, so who do we feel like what do we think about in terms of like the demographics? Who are these games for? I guess is my question, right?
For gamers?
Well, true, but I guess like historically, right, when we've seen like, for instance, in movies, and even we've seen in games, right, it's been like, well, we can't have, like this kind of character here because like people won't want to play that kind of character, right? Like we've seen in movies where they're like,
we do this to ourselves. We do this to ourselves, Sheree.
Yes.
And what I mean by we do this to ourselves is that, and everyone here is a tech professional. And so we laugh about it. Okay. But we do it to ourselves. And what I mean by us doing it to ourselves is when we're at work, okay, in the office, and a bunch of us are collecting ourselves and talking amongst ourselves, we always make the joke, oh man, there's a lot of us in this area, we should probably break up. Right, because you know what I'm saying. And so that's the mentality. I mean we laugh because it's funny, but we also laugh because it's true, right? And so the thing about it is, it's like we're in the position sometimes to make these things happen, and I think enough of us sort of look at it as pretty daunting and don't go the full route. right? Because we think that we might be criticized, we might be ostracized. There's something that's holding us back. And and I'm saying this because I want to speak to Black creators who might be listening to this or who will listen to this and say, be bold, be daunting, make your character Black.
There's a comment that Travis made that I famously violently agree with, as much as painful as that is for me. And Travis said, we're not looking for Black characters who are great. We're looking for great characters who happen to be Black. Right.
Yep.
And that's it. Right. The Black Panther was a fantastic movie that was accessible to all. Yes, there were details that we as members of this ethnic group saw, but all my white comic book friends love Black Panther. Right. Yes. They love Shang-Chi. Right. Did I get all the Chinese references? Hell no. Right. But I knew they were there. And a great example of that, I always go back to Luke Cage. There's just one line in Luke Cage, which I loved when they let there's just one point where this police chief let her sorority sister go. And she said, you let the bad guys ski-wee on right out of here. And I fell out of my chair, dying laughing. Right. And if you are not familiar with Black sororities and fraternities, that went over your head, right? And it was a great detail. It didn't detract from the story that they were telling. It was fine. And that's how you do it, right? And that's where we have to insist. We have to insist, as Travis said, to have that representation. But the representation itself, isn't what's important, right? That's how you get Superfly Johnson or whatever the hell his name was, right? What's important is having that character there and then flushing that character out with the details that makes them come across as authentic. But otherwise, tell the damn story.
Isn't there something, though, to be said for us getting to a place where we don't have to always tell perfect, amazing Black stories? I've seen so many terrible movies
with nary Black character.
Yeah, but I mean, they're with white characters and stuff like that, and those that make like millions, billions of dollars. I always feel like.
Have you seen a Medea? Come on.
but that's what Chris Rock said was the Holy Grail, right? Like Chris Rock was the Holy Grail.
I give you the example. How about I remember when Captain Marvel came out, a lot of people were really upset that Captain Marvel. There were folks who were upset about Captain Marvel just in general. But Captain Marvel made $1 billion, and folks were upset online because they're like, it really wasn't that great a movie. And I'm like, do you think Michael Bay's movies are good? But they make $1 billion. Maybe we've kind of reached a little bit, like maybe we've gotten to like a new level of consciousness where we can have a movie that's not that great, but still makes $1 million. I feel like, I'm not speaking out against Black excellence because I think,
but maybe that's the mountain.
I'm also it's like, wouldn't it be great if we didn't always have to be on and be perfect and be better than everyone else and still be able to make that money?
Well, and then also, I both agree, and I have like a slight bit of nuance I want to add to Travis's statement too about like we don't want Black characters who are great. We want great characters who happen to be Black. I want both, to be totally honest, right? Like I've said, like one of the things that often stops non-Black creators from implementing Black characters or having like diversity and representation is they have this fear that they're going to get it wrong. And they're totally going to get it wrong, even if they have Black people in the room, even if they have Black folks who are consulting. Like you're going to get something wrong somewhere. Use it as a learning experience. But where they usually really go wrong with the representation is they don't go all in and out. They half-ass it. They're just like, okay, we're going to put one Black character. We got a representation, right? And then that one Black character represents all Blackness in their game, and it's probably a stereotype. And then so all the only Black representation in your game is stereotypical representation. So like this goes to what my sister was saying about like, having to always have this feeling that we always have to have representation. It has to be perfect representation, and that's what has a lot of people shy away from it. My counter to that, what I always say is like the solution to imperfect representation is not less representation, it's more representation. Give me the imperfect folks and give me more of them. And then I have more different ways to be Black. I always go back to the show. It's a terrible show. I know it's over now, but I'm dating myself a bit, but Empire. Empire, if you looked at the individual characters in that TV show Empire, many of them would be the stereotypical character, be the one black friend, the sassy black girl, or like the hood, all this kind of stuff, right? But the fact they had all those characters together in a single show meant they were showing there's a lot of different ways to be black. It's not just Cookie. It's not just whatever the names were. It's like there's lots. It's not just Portia. It's like there's lots of different ways to be black, and so that's what I want to challenge folks with. Is like, don't go for the perfect. Go for something that was authentic, because like stereotypes, the problem with stereotypes where they hit us is when it's the singular representation of that identity within your entire media.
I don't I'm going to push back against the perfect representation period because there is none.
I think perfect is important.
I'm just saying there is none, and I think that the lack of nuance is possibly sometimes the greatest thing that we we struggle against, is that Black people are allowed to be nuanced. There you can be a Black conservative Republican. Don't know why, but you can be, right?
Over there somewhere, but yeah,
they're over there, right? We should be allowed that, and I think that in that statement. And the reason why that statement was so important to me is because when you focus on your characters being them, and then they just so happen to be that, you get these weird sort of bonuses as to say your children, the people who really haven't been brought up to see racist behavior or prejudiced behavior. Start looking at these people as their heroes. And that's why sometimes this was a good 2 years ago. I never seen so many white kids dress up like Miles Morales in my entire life. And it made me proud that they didn't care that this was a Black Latino. He was just badass and a hero that just so happened to be a Black Latino.
I actually may know the answer why. So Halloween is really big in Detroit. And if you come up to our house dressed as the Black Panther, Dora Milaje, or Miles, you get a full-size candy bar. So it may
be... As it should be. Well, it should be. But yeah, no, I mean, so this is a yes and thing, right? Like I want representation no matter where we can get it and stuff like that too. I want people to not be afraid to take those steps, but also recognize that you have a duty. Like if you were doing this just purely for yourself, so that for your own ego, well then, you're probably a problem anyways. But yes, we're doing this there's a financial, I refer to it as a financial imperative and the moral imperative, right? They're both there. Whether or not you choose to engage in the moral imperative, at the company level, that's your own thing. But there is a moral imperative towards this, right? And so, I think yes, there is a high standard for when we talk about representation. Like, I've talked with friends and they said, well, what if we just try a whole bunch of things and see what works? I'm like, well, you need to be slightly more thoughtful about it than that, because we're talking about real people, their real experiences, and you can't just be like, let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Like that can actually do real harm. At the same time, the fact that you could get it wrong shouldn't stop you from engaging in it, but you should pursue it the way that you pursue anything else that you have a creative standards for, which is you should try to get it right. You should do your best. You should put money behind it. If you're we see people they set their games in Spain or, in Korea or in some place they've never actually really been. And they pick up the entire dev team and they all get on a plane and they do research trips, right?
Yeah.
And because they're actually investing in it. They want to make sure that it feels authentic. They want to make sure that it feels real. And then instead, when they say, I'm going to do a story about a Black trans character, and the only research they do is they watch Pose, or they don't do anything. They don't do any research. They're just like, well, I assume their experience will be this, right? And then they wonder why they got it wrong. So that's what my challenge is.
Make a character with their experience, and they just
Pose is kind of good though. I ain't gonna lie.
It poses actually, I really.
Pose is excellent.
But the point is though, right? Like use the same level of care and standard that you would use with anything else that you're trying to research and that you're trying to represent authentically when you're also trying to represent this melanin.
All right, awesome. Well, this is a fabulous discussion. We got to keep talking about this. I know there's some other things I want. There's so many other things I want to talk about on this. But I do want to close up our topic for today. I just want to do a quick question for folks. because I don't think we've asked for a little bit. What is everybody playing right now? Chuck, what are you playing right now?
I'm going to start with Deathloop. I haven't started it. I'm going to start it today.
Do it.
Just listening to the conversation today. I have it. It's been sitting for a couple of weeks. That's what I'm going to do.
Do it. It.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching my sister play Deathloop, and I'm the one who's like, just like when she was playing RE7, or we were playing it together, but she's actually playing it. I'm like, looking at stuff.
Yeah.
Look out, he's gonna kill you.
I'm like giving suggestions from the sidelines, so I'm delaying her.
I only had to fight Jack in literally the worst boss battle I've ever seen.
It was a terrible boss battle. Yes. So, Sinead, what are you playing? I know you're playing Deathloop. You playing anything else?
I'm playing Deathloop. I'm actually going to be starting Metroid Dread this weekend as well, because it's Metroid, and I'm so excited to play another Metroid game, especially one that returns back to the 2D, 2.5D. I don't know what they're calling it like that too, but draws from that whole like basis and stuff too.
That style. Leon, what you got?
I have not been playing Deathloop because I didn't realize it was also on PC because I refused to pay $10,000 for a PlayStation 5. But I will play it on PC.
$5,000 now.
But yeah, I know, right? But I just downloaded Metroid Dread on my Switch, which will be next on my list.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. Travis, you playing Metroid Dread?
I'm playing the Loop of Death.
You're playing the Loop of Death. That game looks, I watched my sister playing it, and it's, it's fabulous.
There's so many just.
I've been playing Hades, but this would be a good break from Hades.
I love that game.
It is fun.
I think Deathloop will easily be up for Game of the Year. There's so many beautiful things about that game, not only from the characters they've developed, the gameplay itself is very tight and very, very dialed in. The sound design I was talking to my sister about last night, it's just like their ambiance and everything is beautifully arranged. Absolutely love it. Play it in 7.1, play it in all the surround sounds, just buy this game. It's great. Yeah. Also, you get to play as two Black characters.
What else do you need? Honestly.
What else do I need?
And by the way, I know we didn't get a chance to really touch on it in our discussions like that, but like, I saw a story when I was looking at articles earlier this week that was talking about how someone saw some job postings for Beyond Good and Evil for that remake or whatever for it. So and I think the story was just basically like getting our hopes up again, like what happened to this game? Because I remember watching the trailer for that. Like I was sitting in a room, but like at my job, like we had reserved a conference room for the couple of gamers that work there. And we were just like, we're just going to stream like E3 or whatever it was. And when that came on, and I just my mouth just dropped. I was like, Beyond Good and Evil, please actually make this game. So I'm really looking forward.
We've been waiting for the Beyond Good and Evil for how many years now? About a decade?
A little more than a decade, actually. I think it was like 2005.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't hear anything about it in this past E3, if I recall correctly. It's been a couple.
Haven't heard anything about
quiet.
It. Yeah, It's very quiet. I think that's why people were like, "Oh man, is it vaporware?" But they saw the job posting, so maybe not. But I'm playing ActRaiser right now, the new ActRaiser Renaissance. I might switch over to Metroid Dread on Travis's favorite system right here. But that's what I'm playing right now is ActRaiser. So
is that the new one?
It's Travis's favorite system here. Well, okay, all right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for all the discussion. As usual, always a fabulous discussion. Like I said, I really want to get a chance to kind of touch back on this topic because we are seeing, like I said, a lot more of these examples, and we know why it's important. Particularly for like having, expanding the gamer base and creating more authentic experiences. So we will touch back on this. But right now, I'll close up the show. I want to give a shout out to Digital Click for all the creative they provide for each and every one of our shows. If you want to learn more about techn00bians, hit up techn00bians.com. That's techn00bians.com. Please follow us here on Twitch. And if you like our vibe, and we know you do. If you want to learn more about game development and everything geek, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, you can follow us on all socials. We're on all major platforms. So everyone have a great rest of the weekend. And we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.